asked me at any given point over the last decade what my favorite game of all time was, I'd definitely say Freelancer. I picked this game up when I was in the 8th grade. A friend of mine traded me his copy of Freelancer for my copy of Red Alert Yuri's Revenge. I like that game too, but I think I got the better end of the deal. The game was already a couple years old at the time, but to me it was the start of a journey. The start of an adventure that brings me to this place now. A place where I would no longer say Freelancer is my favorite game of all time. Don't get me wrong, I still like it a lot, and I'm not about to go on some rant as to why it's actually bad and 8th grade me was a moron or whatever, but it's just gotten to the point where its age is showing quite a lot. I wanted to explore the journey I've had with the game, and if you're interested, you can come along with me. We should probably start, though, with why I like it so much, and in the first place. So let's start with the good stuff. Freelancer is an arcade space combat game that allows players to also mine and trade their way across the expansive in-game galaxy. That right there is enough for me to buy it on pretty much any game. In case you're new to this channel and don't know me, hello, my name is Jared and I'm a sci-fi-aholic. While this is the first sci-fi game I'm going to cover in this pseudo-review series, it certainly won't be the last, not by a light year. Anyway, back to what this game is. While it isn't the first game of this type to exist, it's the first one that I had ever played. This was my first hit that got me hooked on the crack that is this genre. I compare all other space combat and trading games to this beauty, and until the recent Starpoint Gemini series, which at its core is just Freelancer with modern graphics and resolution, no game has ever measured up to Freelancer for me. Beyond what's at its core though, Freelancer is a gorgeous game that's held up graphically for a number of years. It has beautiful skyboxes, wonderfully angular ship designs, detailed vibrant city backgrounds, and wonderful explosions and particle effects. People's faces were a little wonky, but compared to many other games at the time, this wasn't an issue. Polygon counts were still relatively low in the early 2000s, and I had definitely seen worse. It had the right sci-fi sounds too, the perfect mix of Star Wars blasters and Star Trek phasers. The soundtrack was pretty good as well, although nothing near as special as what we've come to expect from modern games. It controlled really well, and even to this day, I can play space flight games that handle worse than Freelancer ships did. Plus, there was a nice variety to the feel of different ships. Light fighters were more nimble than heavy fighters, which were more nimble than freighters. It all sounds so simple, but to a kid who was just getting their first hit, this shit blew my goddamn mind. The icing on the cake, though, which in the end I wound up eating way more icing than cake, was the game's story. It's fairly unoriginal even for the time, but it hit all the right buttons. It's cheesy and campy as hell at times. The game dialogue has its fair share of one-liners and bad jokes with an even mix of overacting and poor delivery.
Hello, anything I can do for you?
Hey, what you got?
Never seen you here before. New guy?
Yeah.
I see. I work for the Liberty Police. This is our base. You know, I am looking for someone to do a job.
Is it dangerous?
Don't worry about it. You'll be just fine.
All right.
That's great. Good luck.
It seems that Dom Kavash.
As an adult, this story hits a lot of beats that the original Starship Troopers wound up hitting. A satire that just turned out to be cheesy because of everyone taking it so seriously, but over or underacting their way into comedic history. Freelancer may even be the genesis of me loving that sort of thing as well, as longtime listeners to my podcast are well versed in how much I love cheesy things. Somehow, though, they managed to get John Rhys Davies, George Takei, and Jennifer Hale in as 3 of the main characters. Which, aside from Jennifer Hale at the time I knew who they were, it was magical to me.
Who's this then?
This is Dr. Quintain. He's a professor.
Him? No. What field?
I'll have you know, sir, I am the foremost authority on xenoarchaeology.
Oh, I'm sure you are. Come on, Mr. Wizard. I expect you've come to see the missus.
I know this is hard to absorb, Mr. Trent, but Rhineland is not our only enemy in this conflict. More sacrifices are being made than you will ever hear in the news. Men like Ozu
They
are
can.
dying every day.
They are opportunistic.
This simple magic kept this game alive in my heart for several years. I played through the story once a year up until I graduated high school. That little disc was installed on 2 desktop PCs and a laptop that I owned during the time, as well as the family PC in the den and my mom's laptop. Beyond playing through the story, I would painstakingly explore every inch of every sector in the game over the course of the years, finding secret caches and new ships that I'd never seen before. All said and done, it was a magical time indeed. That magic waned over the years, though, as new games came out and Freelancer became tired and old to me. At the time, I was primarily a console gamer. The call of my Xbox 360 grew stronger, and my poor little laptop grew weaker. College, though, changed all of that for me and reinvigorated my love for Freelancer. for yours truly had discovered mods. Mods are what keep any PC game going for the long haul, and Freelancer is still alive today because of them. Official multiplayer servers die? Well, there's a mod that let you make your own. Get bored of the ships, story, gameplay, mechanics, or places in the game? Well, boy howdy, are there only like 1,000 mods for you here in Freelancer. And mod the game I did. I continued playing through the game at least once a year for my time in college, using a different mod set with each go. Ultimately, my favorite mod turned out to be the Rebalance mod. It adds dozens of ships from various sci-fi universes to the game, as well as music and sound effects from them. Star Wars always featured most prominently, and in the most recent version of the mod, much of the game's soundtrack is replaced by the themes from Star Wars. In recent years, the best mods, though, are the ones that allow the game to run at modern 16:9 aspect ratios and that rescale textures to match. Unfortunately, though, all good things must come to an end, and I think my relationship with Freelancer may be coming to a close. Until a few days ago, that is at time of recording, it had been roughly 2 years since I'd played through Freelancer. Adult life and other games had gotten in the way. Other space games like Freelancer were being made now, and I was playing them. I always had that tickle in the back of my mind, though. Freelancer needed to be played. It was time to see if new mods were out or new updates to my old favorites. I just needed to find some time. Well, I found that time, and because of what it was that caused me to find it, I needed a bit of comfort gaming. So I turned to my old standby. I installed it, got my mods working, and started playing my way through the game. It just wasn't quite right, though. Every crack seemed a little bit more noticeable, every joke a little less funny, the backdrops a little less shiny than I remember them. Nostalgia can be a very fickle thing. We remember so fondly the things that brought us joy in the past, but now when we experience them, do not bring us that same joy. Several psychological studies have proven that people remember the good old days as the best times of their life, and very few mediums actually allow you to really go back to those days. Video games are probably the best examples of this, and while nostalgia isn't the biggest reason for my love of Freelancer to wane, it is one. In the last couple of years since I played this game, I've become very cynical and jaded. I've crossed that threshold mentally between young and optimistic and old and angry. My good buddy and co-host Caffeine Rage has said that he's rubbed off on me in the last year or so.
Greetings, I'm Caffeine Rage, and it's time to take a look at a new game once again, and I use the term new very, very loosely, as we go way, way back to look at Freelancer.
That might be slightly true, but my own life circumstances and the damn Trump administration have done more to make me a grumpy old man than Rage ever will. Probably the biggest reason I don't love Freelancer as much anymore, though, is Starpoint and Gemini. I mentioned that in the second paragraph of the script and described it as Freelancer with modern graphics and resolution. The first game in the series was super cheesy with bad voice acting and a cliche story. It hit all the right Freelancer buttons, and for a time I was happy. The second game was just gorgeous, adding RPG elements and a progression system. The third game expanded upon that and added fleet management to the mix. Actually, a quick retrospective on this is leading me to recategorize the game series. It's where Freelancer, I think, should have gone, or perhaps may have, if it had gotten sequels. Regardless, the Starpoint Gemini series of games is what's pulled me away from Freelancer. Combined, I've spent hundreds of hours playing them. A drop in the bucket compared to Freelancer, but I'm in a different place in my life now, so that's a significant amount of time. Really, that sums it up, though, doesn't it? Freelancer came at a time in my life when I could dedicate 1,000,000 hours to exploring every nook and cranny. It stuck with me as I grew and developed my identity as a gamer, specifically a PC gamer, as it introduced me to mods and what real potential gaming PCs had. It's been with me all this time, and even though I notice its age and the odd gait with which it strides, I still find myself being comforted by this old friend. I'm currently about halfway through the campaign again, playing with the Rebalance mod once more. I'm going to finish it, and then perhaps I think I might put it out to pasture. It feels odd to say that, but very few things in this world last us a lifetime, and nothing lasts forever. I love you, my old friend. Let's enjoy the remainder of our time together. And for you, dear viewer, until next time,
Let me introduce
bye-bye now.
Mr. Harrison, our newest diplomat. Mr. Harrison, Edison Trent.
Edison? What an unusual name.
Call me Trent. Pleased to meet you.
The pleasure is mine, Mr. Trent.